Hey, HFH fam, get ready to transform your money mindset today because we're diving deep into the world of wealth and prosperity with the one and only Amber Frankhuizen. As the host of the popular Old Money podcast and the founder of an award-winning creative agency, Amber has a unique perspective on navigating the emotional and practical sides of building financial freedom. And let me tell you, she's been through it all, from living paycheck to paycheck to battling serious anxiety around budgeting and spending. But through her own personal journey, Amber has developed a refreshingly empowered approach to money. And it's not just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about cultivating that healthy, intentional relationship with your finances as a tool to create the life you truly deserve. So whether you're struggling with money anxiety, stuck in that paycheck to paycheck cycle, or simply curious about the alternative paths to prosperity, this conversation is so packed with insights that are true to inspire, empower, and motivate you. Now, let's get into it. Hey, I'm Courtney Brooke, and this is Hustle for Happiness podcast. We are all on this journey to find happiness, and let's face it, it takes work. And honestly, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. This podcast is dedicated to helping you navigate life and cut through the noise. As a certified life coach, recovering perfectionist, and survivor of the foster care system, I'm all about keeping things real. With my unique outlook on life that is truly infectious, we cover everything from achieving happiness and optimal self-care to stories of those sharing their wisdom and expertise. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Now, let's get started. You're here. I'm here in San Diego, actually.
We made it finally.
We made it finally. Everyone, those just now tuning in, I did post on the Instagram story that we will be talking money and mindset. And we have Amber Frankhuizen with us today.
Very nice pronunciation. I like it. You nailed it.
So much pressure. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really happy to be here with you.
I'm really happy to have you here. I think that this timing of talking about money and mindset and, the economy and inflation and, we're over almost halfway through the year. I know some of us have money goals, and what perfect timing. So those that don't know you, do you want to do like a brief intro?
I'd love to. Hi, everyone. I'm Amber Frankhuizen. I am the host of Old Money Podcast, which is my passion project where I talk about living well, building wealth. And my goal is to try to make building wealth more, accessible, easy to understand. But honestly, that's just my passion. I've always been obsessed with mindset, personal development, and personal finance. But my day job, like how I actually make money, is I am the founder of a creative agency here in San Diego called AF Marketing. My background is in real estate development. So we do a lot of branding, websites, social media, strategy for real estate developers and also aesthetic medicine companies, similarly to what you did and how you got started.
Yeah, I love that. It's fun how we can cross paths or we're meant to find each other.
Yeah.
How did you get into your marketing company, real estate development?
Yeah, the whole story. I started, I would say I started my career at the worst time ever, which is kind of similar to now, 2008, 2009, right after the Great Recession. And my mom was in real estate. My grandmother was in real estate. So I always thought that would just be my path. And everything blew up in 2008 and there were literally no jobs in the industry. And I think a lot of people are experiencing that right now, thinking they're going to go into tech or get a great job and work remote. And they're like, wait, where did all these jobs go? That was me back then too. So this is not something that's like a black swan event. It happens like many times to different generations, right? So I started in student housing because everybody at that time was going back to school. And I started just selling apartments. And I was like, I'm going to work my way up. And I did. And I worked my way up in the span of about 6 years from being on the sales floor to being the vice president of sales and marketing at a local real estate firm in San Diego. And that was also a watershed moment for me where I had the opportunity to go back to school and get my master's. And I was like, wait a minute, am I seriously going to take on hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to go learn basically out of a textbook and so that I can get connections? Or am I going to get this job, crush it, make it my education? And that's what I did. So I was super intentional about that. And the reality was it was a lot. Like it was so competitive. There was so much pressure. And I was in a really big role for somebody that was as green as I was. A lot of leadership. It was scary at times dealing with like capital partners and investors. And so I knew that I would love that job, but I needed to take a break and recalibrate because I just went too fast. And so I left that job on great terms, opened a building in Bankers Hill, threw a party, and I was like, bye guys, I gotta go. And I literally just had an intention to take a break. I had saved about $35,000. I got a roommate in my tiny little apartment in Carlsbad. And I was like, I'm just gonna figure this out and take a break and we'll see what happens. And then by the grace of God, my phone rang 2 months later and somebody said, can you help me with my marketing for my business? It was a yacht broker, a family friend of mine. I said, yeah, I'd be happy to. And then I had another friend who was like, oh, hey, could you help this person? And could you help that person? And then it just grew. And I then built a team and a huge agency. And now here we are.
I love that with all the quote unquote like odds against you, you still did what you wanted, did your calling. How did you not believe that self-doubt or those beliefs that it's not going to happen?
You know, it's so funny because I didn't have time to think about it. I just didn't focus on that. I was focusing on what's the next right move? What's the next right step? The very next thing that I could do that's going to add value to somebody or to myself. And when, you're focused on the future and not looking backwards or where you are presently, I say that, the easiest way to get out of your head is to go help somebody else. And so that's what my whole ethos of our company has been, is just like, how can we be of service to our clients? Because it doesn't allow time for those thoughts to creep in.
And when you build that team, where you started with 35,000 and saved, it was a big time, 2009. I mean, nothing was happening. And bring it to the moment we have now, it's kind of the similarity. People are in this unknown, or you find, I don't know about you, but there's this weariness in the world, like that feels heavy, or a lot of people are in pain or unknown. How did you not let the unknown take over?
It's so interesting because I would say when I graduated from school in 2009, I was working 3 jobs. I still couldn't pay my rent. I had a moment where I was like, I had my dad come help me pack everything up. I'm like, I got to go home and figure this out. And that's how I got that first job in real estate development. Like, I didn't know what was coming, but like none of us do. And this illusion that we have control over what's happening is just that, and it's an illusion. And the reality is that, the more that you focus on what you can't control, the more you'll spin out. And I always think about it as, what is it that I can do next that's going to be impactful, is going to be so much, or it's better energy spent than worrying about everything else. And you're right, a ton of people are thinking that way. I don't know how you were raised or like what money stories like you grew up with, but mine were very much like, save your pennies, be prudent, get a good education. Like, this is how it's going to go. And my parents were trying to do right by me, of course. But what was so interesting about all of the stuff I grew up with, it was very much about like restriction and following the rules and like doing the right thing. And when I started to think about expansion and breaking the rules and doing things my own way, that's when I started to actually make money.
Yeah. And it's crazy how much family issues, and not even, I don't want to say issues, but family belief systems really not impair, but they have a huge foundation of how we think and how we do things. I mean, my mom always said, save, 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 retire, get, like, always thinking so far ahead that like, I'm like, Mom, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. That doesn't make sense to save. And then I can enjoy life. Like, if I spent no money going out or having that time to travel, that to me doesn't make sense. But to her, it did. And those family issues really do come in. Do you see that a lot with working with your clients?
Oh my gosh, it's in myself. I mean, this is like a personal journey. And I think something I want to say too is like, this is really important, I think, for everybody listening. Like, I'm no financial guru. I don't think anybody is. Like, there's no financial gurus out there, okay?
Not one size fits all.
Right. Everybody has to be their own guru, right? And so it's like examining, what did you grow up with? And like you said, like, is it an issue, or is it just like your mom probably wanted the best for you, right? That's why she gave you that advice.
Yeah.
She wasn't trying to like screw you over.
Yeah.
She's like, that would be smart. Save your money. And we're out here being like, have you seen this economy? Like, are you kidding me? Like,
wait, how do I make this happen? And it's almost stressful. Like, I'm not listening to my mom. So therefore I'm not a good kid, or I'm going to be a failure if I don't save. But then I also have my own belief system of, well, how am I going to enjoy life?
And that's the problem with, I think, a lot of the conversations that happen with parents who are very well intentioned. But what I see, because Old Money is a podcast, I like to study what old old money families do, what wealthy families do, what wealthy people do, and how they stay wealthy and get wealthy. And it's because the types of conversations that are happening in a household of a wealthy family are very different than the types of conversations happening in a pretty typical American household.
Really?
And the difference is talking about opportunities of what you can build with money and the lifestyle that you can achieve when you put your money to work for you. And that could include being an investor, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, all of these benefits that when you put money to work, like that's different than getting money from a paycheck and then spending it on expenses. So I noticed over time, especially the more people that I meet in the world who've been very successful, just the way they think about money as a tool versus a thing that's, coming and going. I talk about it as a relationship all the time. Like I say money is my boyfriend. Like I'm in a beautiful relationship with money. I spend a lot of time with my money. I treat my money well. I make sure to tend to it, take it on dates, pay attention to it, respect it. And the more in tune with it I am, like the better relationship is, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an energy exchange, right? And if you cut that energy off, it's almost scarcity. It's like drying out, right? And so you keep that flow going. But for someone who doesn't even know where to start with being intentional with their money or creating a healthy relationship versus keeping it on this pedestal of, oh, money's way up here, as I raise my hand, it's how can you advise someone or create that first step for someone?
I mean, I am only speaking from my experience, and I want to be really transparent with the fact, like, I have always struggled with money. Always. Even the more money I get, I still somehow struggle with it because it's a big force and it's something that's important to me. And we're like achievers. We're like, are we doing this right? Like, I could be doing better. Like, I'm failing, whatever. But there was one point when I started my business, 5 years ago, I was 5 figures in credit card debt. Yes, I did save my pennies from my job so that I could either take a break. And I ended up using that as runway to start my business because I didn't take pay for a very long time when I started my business. But I also was in debt and I had these horrible money habits. And I coined this thing that I call financial fight or flight, which is being in this constant state of panic and reactiveness to life, to money, to everything.
Yeah.
And I still struggle in my mental health with depression. And there was a time where I was super depressed. I had super low self-esteem. And so I would like go to Target to fill my cart, to fill my heart. You know what I mean? Like keep myself busy. This is the next thing that's going to make me feel better. This is the next thing. I need a new outfit for this weekend because nothing that I have is good enough right now. Like that constant need to fill. And so I have a couple of episodes about this, but it's all about calming that noise and getting in control of your emotions around money so that you can be responsive to it, not reactive to it. So that's the difference between swiping your credit card and hoping for the best and being like, this is what's in my budget. It's about being intentional. And I think a lot of people have, and I had a lot of shame around being in debt or struggling with money. And my whole goal with Old Money, the podcast, is to normalize it. Like we all feel weird about it. And money is emotional. Like it's stupid to say that it's not. Like
it doesn't have to be emotional. I think that we make it as a society emotional. It's on this pedestal. How do you bring that intentionality if those are listening and not necessarily on your podcast right now, but bring it to this podcast is how can we bring that intentionality? I mean, it's dopamine release of swiping that card, getting that immediate gratification, filling that void. Like you said, you were saying is like, I went to fill my cup. How can we displace that or how can we navigate that knowing, oh, wait, maybe I should bring awareness into my spending?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spending's only one aspect of money. Like I think, spending feels okay, but what feels better to me is earning it.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that feels better to me than that deposit hitting my bank account.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love that.
Yeah.
Like that's cha-ching. Like that's a better feeling to me. So I think a lot of us look at money as just spending, but what are the other aspects of money? There are saving, investing, creating, giving. There's all of these different aspects to money that a lot of us don't even pay attention to or play with at all. So, being intentional about money really does start with, and I hate to say it, having a budget, understanding how much money comes in and how much money is going out.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't know how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. And then we're like, wait, why am I in debt all the time? I was like that for a really long time and it can be painful to look at it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
So making a money date save and sitting with your money once a week. That's what I used to do when I was getting out of debt, then going to once every 2 weeks and once a month. It's kind of like, when you learn to eat better and you start to like understand portion sizes.
Yeah.
When you first start counting macros, you have to weigh everything, right? Because you're like, there's no way
you
that
gotta
much.
learn whatever you got. You gotta learn how much that weight is, because it's not like, oh, if you never weighed 5 ounces of protein, you'll never really know.
You never know
until you start.
And then after a while, you're like, I don't really need the scale. Like that's about 5 ounces.
Yes.
You start to eyeball it, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the same with our spending.
I love that.
It's like you go to the grocery store and you're like, hold on, this is like out of whack, out of my budget. And now like do I go to the grocery store and buy everything on the shelf because I'm like, I can? Like I could, but like, no, I go to the grocery store and I don't worry about what I'm spending there because I know what I'm getting and I'm not impulsively shopping.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm like eyeballing it now. And then I'm like, okay, it's like $200. Like, yeah, that sounds about right.
You gotta build like that awareness, that education. I think when you get comfortable with your budget, it's almost more freeing. And I've even coached clients on like, what does this opportunity represent? What does this budget represent to me? And how can I see this as a good thing? Right? If I have to say no to this, what do I get to say yes to?
100%.
And it's all about seeing it and creating that energy around it. But I think, the swipe and pray happens a lot. It did happen to me too. And I was talking to you before the episode of like, living paycheck to paycheck. There are still times where I know half the listeners are like that, or they're just getting by. And it's this mentality of, how are you creating this just getting by? Mm-hmm. Well, like you said, look at the budget.
It's about emotional instant gratification versus serving your future self, right?
Yeah.
So like, what does that ideal of your future look like? What is it going to take for you to do now in order to achieve that? And it does mean making choices. There's a lot of verbiage you can put around to it. You could say it's sacrifice. I don't call it that. I call it choices, right? Like I own all of my choices because I want something different for my future than, comfort right now.
Yeah. Right. And it's like anything, it's hard at first.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, I'm like, no, what do I want tomorrow? Like you said, my future self. What do I want tomorrow? I want to be stable. I want that account to grow. And, those who don't know fight or flight, what are some symptoms that like how do we know we're in fight or flight?
Oh my God, such a good question. And also you touched on something I want to say too, which is I think a lot of people, you said this about your mom, like save for retirement. And people think of like future self. And like, I still like, I can't imagine, like, no.
I know. It doesn't
what's your retired vibe? Coastal grandma? Not me. Like,
no,
I don't know.
I don't know that. I don't even tomorrow's not guaranteed, which doesn't mean I should spend everything today. But it's like our parents were like the savers maybe, or like the time and place of like the Great Depression. I don't know. My parents aren't that.
They're not that old.
I know, but you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, why? But my mom like has always been this like heavy saver. And for me, I question myself, like I'm not that, so am I bad?
Well, here's the thing that I wanted to say about that is like, I'm not saying don't save for retirement. I'm saving for retirement. Everybody should. Yeah. That's very important. Yeah. However, there's other future selves that we could save for, like the next year trip to Italy future self. That's something that we can save for. And so when you can create a compelling future for yourself in your mind visually and sit with it, whether that's a trip to Italy next year or the dream wedding that you want to have and you don't want to put it on credit, or sending your kids to the school of their choice, or not working so you can be with your kids, whatever that future is, I think that a lot of people are just feeling, oh, I'm supposed to save, oh, I'm supposed to do that, but there's no alternative vision of what they're doing it for. And I think that's a really important step.
Yeah. And it's not the pressure of my family. I need to save because it's what my mom said, but understanding, at least when I think of this, is like understanding what that means. Maybe it's just for a rainy day, but like you said earlier, is coming from a place of love. Yes. But that doesn't also mean everything. Like my mom, like save for retirement, like cool. I need to save for my future house payment. Like, like to me, I have some other things up close, but I think the piece that I will go back to my question on fight or flight, but the visualizing what money and that wealth looks like. And it's not just monetarily, it's the wealth of financial freedom, the wealth of freedom of traveling, right? There's so many layers to just wealth and an identity around that itself, not just having the big house or balling and buying everyone dinner, right?
Wealth means a lot of different things. And the reason we're all chasing wealth is because we think there's going to be this feeling attached to it. When I get there, I'm going to feel safe. I'm going to feel secure. I'm going to feel joy. I'm going to feel acceptance, popularity, significance, value. all those things are really great feelings, but that's not going to come with money.
Yeah.
You have to figure out how to feel that now. And that's when money will start to come. I know it's paradoxical. I'm sure you talk about this kind of stuff all the time, but it's like you got to be it first before you can have it.
Yeah. And understand, like, at least even back up is like the motivation of why am I feeling the need to buy an outfit before every time I go out? Does it really make that night that much better? And why can't I repeat my outfit? Like this culture around like not repeating or, the shop crazy post your new try on haul. I've avoided all of that kind of stuff because I think it feeds into this shop, this buy, this need, this want, this comparison culture. And, for me, this awareness again is why am I buying this? Is this for me?
Yeah.
Or is this to please or to fill a void or this immediate gratification that's out there? Is, I used to shop. And then I've done these little challenges with myself of, don't shop for this and see what else you can find. And I did this watercolor class over 8 weeks. And I was like, the fulfillment I got as the painting evolved grew way more than just opening a box or I was like looking in my closet, I have all these Louis Vuitton, Chanel, I was like, what is this? And then I look at my one painting and it brought me that much joy. So it's seeing, at least for me, okay, if I shop less, what else can I do? For me, it was painting. For me, it was tapping into that creative side, the emotions behind really understanding and having those tough conversations, calling yourself out, saying, I'm really doing this because I don't feel good enough. I'm really doing this because as a child, I never had clothes. I had to borrow clothes, So when we start to understand, I really think it helps us open up and get to know ourselves.
I think what you said is so key for, that other side of like, what's the other side of fight or flight? It's like a calm nervous system, right? It's somebody who's inquisitive and thoughtful and intentional about why am I spending instead of just every time TikTok shop comes up, it's like purchase. It's something, and this is like an aside. And I knew I was going to have fun talking with you because we were going to go 100 directions.
I know.
But like, okay, I want to know what your take is on this too, because I'm the same way. I'm very like anti purchasing on influencers because these are the new commercials. Right? However, this is the like biggest like watershed moment. That's the second time I've said that in this podcast. I don't even know what it means, but like a big moment for women earning. Like influencers and women are finally making a lot of money doing something that comes naturally to them.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because I'm like, yes, I love to see women succeed and crush it in business, making millions of dollars and like buying homes and doing the things and living out their dreams. But it's like at what cost? Because all that it's doing is this trickle down consumption.
Yeah.
And I am like you, I'm very much like, do I need this? Like, does this eye mask gonna really make me sleep better? Or did somebody just say it was? They're a good marketer.
And I had an episode on this of like de-influencing because again, like you said, these influencers are the new commercials, the new ads. And so for me, James is my successful husband. Before we met, I didn't look at money. I mean, you guys following me, we fly around, we do really cool things. James is a very successful entrepreneur. And I saw this side of James and, you said you have conversations with wealthy people and really studying that with them on your podcast. And they have different conversations and I am in a different circle than I was 10 years ago. And to be exposed to that, I see it too. And I just want to like call that out as like wealth is not how much you can spend. We hang out with billionaires and I'm not trying to like showboat as I'm in my workout clothes, but it's like they don't spend. And the question James and I always ask is need, want, or wish. And we categorize that.
Love that.
And we put it into, this is a need, want, or wish. Needs are, your mortgage, your rent, your health insurance, like those things are needs. Wishes are, I could use a 10th pair of red bottoms. No, that's a wish, And so for me, it's really breaking down those categories. That has helped me create an awareness on money.
I love that.
And it simplifies it so visually for me. And so we've been practicing that. I've brought it to the podcast to you guys before, but I want to remind us because we're talking about money and what helps me is, breaking it down in these black and white categories because money is emotional and it gets hard and it gets sticky. And like you said, there's a fight or flight mode. Mm-hmm. So how do we know we're in that?
Yeah. Like going back to that question you asked me like 15 minutes ago,
it's perfect, though.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's honestly, When you're unconscious, when you are overspending, when you don't feel good with your money, it's likely that you're not in a regulated system. A regulated system means that when they go on Shark Tank, they're like, you got to know your numbers. Like, you are the business of you. So like, you have got to know your numbers. How much money do you make? How much money do you spend? How much money do you invest? What is your net worth? Like, knowing those things is part of your job as an adult. You are the business of you. So if you want to live a great life, like, start acting like a CEO and starting to get around it. And so that means making conscious decisions, whatever system it is. I love that, by the way. Needs, wants, wish. Love that. It's whatever works for you, but it all starts with awareness and slowing down. So if you see yourself overspending, if you see yourself avoiding, these are all like the same things with relationships, right? If you have anxious attachment to money, like, I never think I'm going to have enough. Where is it going to go? Where is it going to come from next? If you have avoidant attachment, like, I'm not looking at those bills, I'm not opening those envelopes.
I'm just going to swipe, look away.
Literally. Until you have a secure attachment with money, you do not have a good relationship with money. And that doesn't mean that it's all running perfectly. It doesn't mean that you have zero debt and all of your investments are fully funded. It means that you're comfortable working with it, that you're going to be conscious to it, you know your numbers, and you're taking the right actions for you. And this is, again, I'm not a financial guru. I'm not like Dave Ramsey saying like, these are the things you need to say.
No.
Everybody's situation's different. And there's so much nuance of like, when your kids are, before they go to kindergarten, you're spending so much money on daycare, right? Then that cost, that expense changes as they get into primary school. Or maybe you're going through IVF. You're trying to have a baby and that's a dream of yours. I'm not going to say, oh, that's over your budget. I'm going to say living well and having the life you want, that's true wealth. So how can we figure out a way to make that happen? Most of the time, the answer is earning more, creating more money, being a vessel so money can flow to you, creating those channels. Like, that's how we get wealthy.
Before we dive back in today's discussion, I want to take a moment to share something special with you, HFH fam. Have you ever felt like there's more to life, but you're not quite sure how to unlock it? That's where life coaching comes in. It's not just about solving our problems. It's about uncovering your true potential and living your best life. Imagine waking up each morning excited about the day ahead, feeling confident in your abilities and ready to tackle any challenge that comes your way. That's the power of a healthy mindset. And the only difference between you and that reality is taking the first step. And that's why I am so excited to offer you a complimentary coaching session. It's a chance for us to connect, explore, and uncover the limitless possibilities that await you. Whether you're looking to overcome obstacles, find clarity in your goals, or simply cultivate more joy and fulfillment in your life. And I'm here to support you every step of the way. So, if you're ready to experience the transformation in that what life coaching can bring, simply head down to the show notes and click the link where you'll find instructions on how to claim your coaching session. Now, let's get back to our episode. And creating those channels, I mean, it seems simple, but it's not. It's simple, but it's not. Does that mean having 5 jobs? Or what is that? What does really those channels mean? Like, can you go a little deeper on that?
I'd love to. Well, first of all, I love making money. I think it's so fun. And I love talking about how other people can make money. And if you work in a corporation, if you're a corporate cutie, if you work for a big business, small business, the number one question that you need to ask yourself in order to earn more money in your current job is, how can I improve the company's bottom line? What is it that I can do to add significant value to the bottom line of a company? That's what matters. A lot of people say, oh, well, I do a really good job at managing this team, or you do my job really well. And those are all true things, but you're getting compensated for the job that you're doing right now. If you can add money to the bottom line, then you basically get a cut of that. So for example, sales is a great career. If you can get into sales and you have control of your commission structure, that's a phenomenal career. I love that. Taking on more responsibility, growing your skill set. I got a lot of certifications when I used to work in corporate for a whole bunch of different things so that I could take on more responsibility, have my company pay for my certifications, get the license that I carry forever, and now I can earn more money because I have more responsibility. So I think there's a lot of leeway and a lot of opportunity within current structures that people are in where they say, I can't earn anymore, but you maybe could, or switch your job. Should be switching jobs every 3 years or so, especially if you're in like tech world or something. That is the fastest way to grow your income, is to get a different job at a different company.
And like bringing in the mindset, because we all know that I'm obsessed with mindset and how we really are in control is what I hear. Whether you take responsibility with the current job you're in, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to start your own business to make money. And like, you see this heavy dominated culture like system on Instagram of being this influencer, starting your own business. I made $600K. I'm going to preach right now. There's many ways to have financial abundance. Green energy is what we call it in our family. There is many ways to do it. And I love that you said, don't start your own business. That doesn't mean you have to start your own business. But I heard like, take initiative, get that certification, put it on yourself. How else can you grow? I think there's this fixed mindset sometimes around money or being stagnant in our careers if we're working for someone. I love that you said, get a certification, put it on yourself. You are the choice of your life, right?
100%. Like, your boss is not the boss of your life. The boss is the boss of your job. How can you figure out how you can add more to this organization? Like, that's entrepreneurial thinking. That's wealthy woman thinking. And you're right, that entrepreneurship is not the only path to wealth. Okay. Like, I don't know if you guys talk about this, but like the salaries in tech, like you're easily making $600,000, $1 million, $2.5 million being like a director, a C-suite executive. That's not even including stock options. Like, you're making great money. So like, I'm all about corporate. I love working for a big company. I think it's fun. It's great for a lot of personalities, you know? But the other thing is too, is I think with this entrepreneurial concept is that a lot of people think, oh, if I'm going to start a business, I'm going to need a logo and a website and a social media following and all of these other things. That is so not true.
Says the girl who has a marketing agency.
Literally. Like, there are so many people that come to us and they're like, we need a brand. And I'm like, no, you don't, baby. You need a business first.
Yes. Stay scrappy, guys.
Yeah. Having a business means exchanging something that you can do for money. You give value, they give you money. You don't need a website to do it. You don't need a social media page for it. You don't need a brand for it. What you need is your brain and a laptop, probably. And if you can do something for someone in exchange for value, you're running a business.
There's your other channel, like you're talking about.
Exactly. So, I mean, for me, it was, it came because somebody said, can you help me with social media? That's how my agency started. And I said, yes. And then we exchanged money. It wasn't like I had this brand and this website and this portfolio first. Like, I had to start giving people stuff first, right? Value focus first.
Yeah. And I think that's super important is what I hear right away is, where can you start, right? Where can you build right now? You don't have to start something new. You have to maybe work through a little more hardships. Like, it's okay to wrestle a little bit. And I love that piece of like, again, this immediate gratification is not just about how much money quickly, right? How can I get it quick? Because if I don't get it quick, we often think, I don't know if you see this, is if they don't get it quick enough, they attribute that to not being successful. Do you see burnout? Like, what trends do you see when you're working with people?
I think a lot of people are looking at their businesses, especially small businesses. Like, I have a small business, not a startup. So it's different structures, right? I think a lot of people are like, oh, wow, like I'm not making as much as I did at my other job and this is a failure. I should be making this revenue number per month. Revenue means nothing, people. Profit is the only thing that matters. So your expenses can be higher than your revenue and people will still go on Instagram and tout how much they made in a launch or whatever. So just be wary. There's nothing to compare to. But what you also build when you're building a business is equity. So if you are building a business that could potentially sell, or you could have somebody that succeeds you, there's a lot of different value, like pieces of value in that, not to mention the value, the wealth of creating your own schedule, determining who you work with, determining when you work, where you work. There's a lot of different measurements of wealth and success. And so if we're just focused on how much money am I taking into my paycheck every day, we're missing the point.
And I can relate to that a lot because I used to think that way. I mean, we went through with one of our businesses, like I can see it with my husband. I was telling you this as we were talking before the podcast, that, this identity around how much is in my account is how much success I have. But there are so many other ways and types of success. Do you want to elaborate on that?
100%. And I want to touch on that too. I think it's so important because it's like, I always say, there's always someone with a bigger yacht. okay, you might own a yacht. You might own 100-foot yacht. You might own a 300-foot yacht. And there's always going to be someone with a bigger yacht than you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just, they're always building the next one. I work in the yachting industry. This is true.
She's worked everywhere. No,
literally.
A job every new year.
Well, that's how you make more money, right?
Right. No, I'm serious. People think like, oh, like I remember, we'll go back to your thing, but I remember like my mom's like, you change jobs too much. I'm like, yeah, I'm on a mission. Like,
yeah, girl.
I want to do what I want to do. I want to like what I want to do. There's nothing wrong with just climbing it different ways. You don't have to stay in one company to climb.
100%.
So anyways, back to the bigger yacht.
No, it's so true though. Like, this idea of like what you have and what it means. It's like, okay, my nails are not done right now. Like I don't have a manicure. Does that mean that my 401k is not fully funded?
Right.
What do you know? Do you know what I mean?
No, like, it's so funny how people have this idea of, oh, you have this, you must not have this. Or sometimes I don't like my wedding ring. I love my wedding ring, but I don't like wearing it because people assume that I won't check the bill. I'm not kidding you.
It's so true.
I'm not kidding you.
So true.
They think that, oh, we can, not that they do it on purpose, but I'll say, oh, this was supposed to be $2 and it was $3. I don't care. Like, I'm the advocate of my bank account. I'm the advocate. Yeah. Right. But 100%. It's like the same thing. If you don't have your nails, then you're not this. But I question everyone to just start questioning those belief systems of what we think, because it's like, I used to think, oh, the bigger the rock, the more successfully stable someone is. Mm-hmm. Right. That's not true. Mm-mm. Especially now people are like, you can do lab grown and you can do all these different things. But it's this ideas we have in our head around what wealth is.
Yeah. And I think it's just, again, being conscious to it, questioning it all, and then like questioning our ideas and assumptions and our shortcuts. Like it's not our fault. Listen, we grew up with like Disney movies and culture and people saying like everybody wealthy is evil. It's like, is that true? Or is that just something that we like sponged up and learned? I don't know.
I don't know.
So it's not true. Rich people aren't evil, but like, you know what I mean? Where do we learn this stuff?
Right, or they're meaner, or they have it all and they don't have problems.
Yeah, that's definitely not true.
No, it's so not true. Sometimes it's like, I fantasize about I'm like, we're in San Diego right now, you guys, and we're like almost downtown and we're like 5 blocks from my old apartment. Aww. And I'm like, sometimes I fantasize about the simplicity because there is something beautiful in that.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to choose when our beauty is. You know what I'm saying? Not 100%. Because of the yacht or the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. Mm-hmm. And I can go back and say, I've been on the full spectrum of things and there is some beauty in any aspect of it, but it's not always beautiful. Like I sometimes fantasize about just living in my apartment. I don't know. I think that there is something like, it doesn't have to be so big.
100%. No, that's totally right. It's every stage of our life or every season that we're in is meant to be. And this is so like woo-woo, like BS. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, shut up. Like I it's hard to be romantic about it when you're living paycheck to paycheck. That's the challenging part. I get that. But at the same time, it's setting you up for the next version of yourself. Like you're learning lessons and having experiences now to prepare you for the next level of you. And so you have to be the same way. Like, would you be mad at like a little version of Courtney for being scared or anxious when she's a baby and doesn't know what's going on?
No.
Never.
Yeah.
So why would we treat 21-year-old version of Amber or Courtney any differently? Like I didn't know what was going on then either.
Right.
Like for real.
And we talk about like, so there's different types of wealth. And I think that the last thing that comes is actually the bank account number. I
100%.
really believe that. I really think that the last thing is, we have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you've looked at that psychological chart, and that the bottom is safety, security, stability. And we often think not living paycheck to paycheck is very unstable. Mm-hmm. It is. It's scary, right? But like you said, where's the intentionality behind it? Where's the awareness? Am I visualizing? Am I comfortable? Am I getting familiar with the uncomfortable of how low my bank account is, right? Let's start studying ourselves. Do you have any books or anyone you follow that you have gotten there?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm obsessed. First of all, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, I think is his name.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, it's a really easy read. It's a great one. For anybody who's new to budgeting, investing, Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. I read that book in like 2009. And then it was like, I was just out of college and then I didn't do anything with it. And God, if I would have done something with it.
Really?
And it's a very easy, like step-by-step, chapter by chapter, talks to you about like how to negotiate with your credit cards. If you overdraft, call them and tell them that you're a great customer. Oops, it was an oops.
I love that.
And please give me my money back. If you call and ask for your money back, they will give it to you. Like I'm the same as you. I'm like, oh, you guys charged me an accident. Like I forgot to cancel that. Can you give me my money back?
Yeah.
And normally they do.
They will.
But you know how I catch those things is because I look at my bank account statements. I read my credit card. I make sure every single charge is categorized. I'm very intentional with it. Anyway, I love Ramit. Other ones I would say for more advanced, Tony Robbins' Unshakable for advanced investors. That's one of my favorite investing books. There's a lot of good stuff out there. And I will say this, like, I think this is important. And we have a podcast. So I don't want to tell you guys to not listen to the podcast. Listen to our podcast. Like, don't tune out. But information, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of information and there's so much that we're consuming. But the difference with successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people execute on the information they get. There's a lot of people out there that just consume. So if you want to change your life for real, it's going to take execution. So if you're not used to taking action and executing, that's something that you need to call Courtney for help on because it is going to make the biggest difference in your life. Listening to a podcast is not going to change.
No, we're just a tool here. And hopefully this pushes all of us to just, money is a hard conversation. And I'm glad we're talking about this because it doesn't have to be hard.
No, we're friends. Let's talk about it.
Like we're all friends. We're all here listening. And, our parents, I feel like the family issues and the pressure and seeing people and then the social media of what someone has adds to all of this like complexity of like, am I doing it right? Mm-hmm. Am I messing up? And one of my favorite things is what you said is, execute, but you can't mention what you don't manage. Right. And so we used to just swipe, huge credit card bills on American Express. And then we'd get all of our points and we'd keep just doing it. We did that. I mean, James and I have been together for 6 years. Now our budget's our bestie. Like we literally love seeing how low we can get that card or, we talk about it though. Like if you guys are in a relationship, like for me, James was like having the conversation on money and I would like, again, my nervous system, that fight or flight would come in. Oh my gosh, I messed up or I bought too many bags or, he's managing me. He's like anything around like even in a relationship, sharing finances or even if you're not in a relationship, manage yourself, right? Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Money has always been not my strong suit. For my whole life, just swipe it and look away. Avoidance, 100%. And I now think about this out loud is, it's not personal. What other relationships in my life are avoidant? Yeah. Right? It's not just like I'm avoidant with money. It could be I'm avoidant with looking at my emails on Sunday nights or, it's avoidant. And it's calling yourself out is like the hardest part.
And it's like, okay, why do we, because in relationships, like I'm an avoidant attached. Like when I get stressed, like with my boyfriend or my fiance now, sorry, I always say that, but like, I'm like, I need a break. I need to take time, like whatever. And I like don't want to come back into it because I want to avoid conflict. And I was also that way with money as well. And it's like, why was I that way? You have to keep asking yourself why. There's some guru out there who says like, ask why 5 times to get to your core answer. And why I was avoidant with money was because I wasn't confident that I was going to make the right decision. I wasn't confident that it was going to be okay. And it all came back down to my confidence. Yeah. That's why I was avoidant. And so I have a lot of empathy for people that are out there that feel that way. I think a lot of us do. I don't think it's uncommon. And it is not uncommon also to feel unconfident because the system is not set up for us to understand it.
No.
It's not set up
like
so
scary.
Like we can win.
Like these big creditors, like you guys, my biggest fear is like I have this credit card out, or no, I was put in a hospital for appendicitis. My dad said he'd pay for appendicitis. He ended up getting mad. We don't talk anymore and left me with this huge hospital bill. And it's out there somewhere. I'm like, and before I got married to James, I'm like, I confess there's a hospital bill out there. I don't know where it is. I still don't know where it is. She's like, okay, we'll figure it out. But facing it, talking about it. But it's a scary thing. Like I have this fear that they're going to come around the corner and come get me.
100%.
And it's like, how many of us have these big fears around something so simple?
It's so true. And like one of the things I just learned this about medical bills is that all medical bills are negotiable. Yes. And if you even if you're going to have a baby, like when you go into labor, you're like in labor, they're going to ask you, how are you paying for this? Like how fucking rude, first of all. Second of all, they're going to say, how are you going to pay for this? And you can say right then and there, put it on a payment plan, 0 interest. And you can pay it off like $100 a month for like forever, for like 100 months or something. And so you have the ability. And here's the thing. Who knew that? I didn't even know that till recently.
They don't tell us.
They don't tell us these things like how to work with the system. So I hope that through more candid conversations about money, where we can take the charge out of it, we can feel empowered about it, we can turn the conversation around, turn the beat around, right? Like,
turn the beat. Yes.
you know what I was doing.
I do.
And honestly, like it brings me so much joy. For me, as I'm an only child, I've been very independent, hyper independent my whole life, and I can support myself and my dog, and she has a savings account. Like, we good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we good. And that feels really good to me. And it took a long time to get there. It took a lot of years of mistakes and practice and lessons, but like, it'll continue to be challenging and we'll keep on.
And you talk about this word empowerment with your money. What does that mean and why is that so important?
I think it's important to me personally because I think a lot of the conversation about money feels so disempowering because there's a very clear haves and have-nots, right? And when people talk about investing, for example, what you think about probably is like MSNBC and like ticker tape and like Wall Street and chaos. And like, I'm here to tell you that like day traders usually always lose money. Like people that are trading day to day, it's a full-time job that you can never catch up on. That's not what investing is. That's one form of it. Don't get me wrong, but like that's not what I would suggest. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not day trading. I'm not trading on GameStop and Nvidia. And no. There's other ways to still build your wealth that don't tax your nervous system. You don't have to watch ticker tape or Jim Cramer, right? It's like, what else is out there? Well, unfortunately, those options aren't as readily discussed. So being empowered about understanding all of the information, synthesizing it. Do you watch reality TV?
I don't watch reality TV.
Oh, good for you. I'm addicted to it.
Are you?
I love it.
What's like, your show?
Right now, I'm kind of like showless. I feel like I'm lost without an oar, but I love shows about love. Like I love Married at First Sight Australia.
Oh, I love that stuff.
It's so good. Like,
all right, you guys, let's find her a show.
I need a show because Bravo right now is like kind of killing me. But like on Old Money, my goal is like, I want to make everything an analogy to something that people watch, like a Bravo show, right? Like Tom and Ariana on Vanderpump Rules, they're going through a huge issue with like a HELOC loan. What is HELOC? Is it good? Is it bad? It's a home equity line of credit. Let's talk about why they're in that situation. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to try to bring it back to something that's relatable so that we have reference points that we can understand.
Totally. And it makes it easy to digest and talk about. And it kind of like takes the boxing gloves down. Like you can ease into it a little bit more.
Yeah. And so for me, being empowered, back to your question, is like, I understand enough to be dangerous. Again, I'm not a financial guru. I'm not a CPA. I'm not giving financial advice, but I'm like, let's talk about these topics in a way that makes sense so that we can feel good enough to make qualified decisions, building that confidence so we don't have avoidant or anxious tendencies around money.
And I just think about like, what's the difference of like like thinking positively versus financial empowerment? Like, what's the difference?
I think, well, I'm going to be really honest. Like, I still struggle with this whole concept of like abundance and scarcity mindset because I am an investor and some would say like I'm risk adverse with a lot of my investments. Like, I'm not like dumping a bunch of money into like Nvidia, for example. They're big in the news right now. I'll talk about that. But I go a more conservative route with my investments, right?
Yeah.
So some might say like, oh, look for like the abundant opportunities or whatever. Is that scarcity mindset? But I like to have a balance between the two. And the way that I think about it, honestly, is like a current. Like money is currency, right? Mm-hmm. Current is like the current of a river. Flow. It moves, it flows. Like money has to flow, it circulates. And if you are a human being, you have an electrical current in you. We are electric beings, right? Yes. So when we're in fight or flight, what happens? Our bodies freak the fuck out. We jump a bunch of chemicals in our body. Yeah, we just get super tense and super closed off, right?
Yeah.
When I'm relaxed, when I'm open, my channel is open, I'm feeling secure about my money. I understand I can look at everything around me. I can see opportunities. I'm more creative. I'm more opportunistic. I'm like more liable to go have a conversation, start a business, take a risk, make a partnership, whatever. And it's kind of like, I think financial positivity or empowerment is just being in an entrepreneurial mindset. It's about looking for opportunities of not just how to grow my bank account, but how to grow the richness of my life. Like being here with you and doing this, we both have podcasts. These are business ventures, but this is what it's about. Like I get to sit with you and connect with you. Like that's richness, right? So I think it's like, what opportunities are we creating and how can we look at the world in that way? That's what resonates with me.
Yeah. And I hear this statement of, oh, you're so lucky you get to do that. You're so lucky. lucky.
Mhm.
Well, so are you. Why aren't you? Like, you know what I'm saying? And you're not like, oh, because I'm already doing it. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's this flow, it's this energy, it's this abundance. You can keep it moving or you can stay fit.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm reading this book on mindset, and then there's this chapter. As I read this on CEOs, and it goes into athletes, and then it goes into like studying these kids' behaviors, and it's just so interesting because it's anytime the basic premise is like anytime there's an obstacle comes the way, it's like people go, oh, it's hard. I'm not going to even deal with it, or how can I see this as an opportunity? And I think that's kind of what you're touching on is no matter where we are in life or what's presenting is okay, this is going to be hard, but I can do it, or this is so hard that I don't want to do it. And that's really that choice.
It really is. And I want to say one thing too. I haven't even talked about this publicly yet, so I'll share it here. But it's like, I want to be really honest about where people are at. And yes, because when I'm fully resourced, as I say, I'm like, yes, let's attack this opportunity. Let's go see it. But I've been going through some shit in my life recently. And I got into a very bad depressive state earlier this year where I was not seeing opportunities. I was seeing these challenges and I was getting taken out at the knees. And so I recently started taking an antidepressant and it's been 51 days on it. And I track it on my phone. That's why I know like to the day. But like I needed that support in order to get through some very challenging grief-ridden things that are going on. And I needed a little bit of extra support. And I even had some weird thoughts about like SSRIs. I was like, is it going to change my personality?
For
like
sure.
I had never been on medication like that before, but based on what was going on in my life, I was like, okay, I need to get some support. And so yes, I totally agree with you. And when I'm fully resourced, I'm like, I can get this challenge. I have my confidence. I built it up over years. And then listen, life happens or shit happens and you need to get support. And that might be in the form of getting healthcare support or coaching support or better community, better friends, maybe taking some people out of your life that are not in support of you tackling those challenges. There's so many layers to it. And I think that that's something that gets overlooked a lot when people are struggling paycheck to paycheck. I get it. It's very hard to look at a challenge and be like, let's attack July's bills, and like get excited about it. But
And I love that you're sharing that. And, support looks different for so many people.
Yeah.
It could be cleaning out that friend. It could be, like you said, changing that job. It could be looking at, I feel stuck in my current position. What else can I do? A new certification, or it's leaving the corporate world completely and starting your own adventure. You just don't know. And everyone looks differently. And you said like the antidepressants, it's not a permanent thing, right? And for you, it's what you need right now.
Right.
Versus, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough, or I must be weak to get the help of a antidepressant. And I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. We can only talk about our experiences. But I love that, if you are struggling or if someone is struggling in terms of, that good enough or financially, because, with the election and inflation and, living costs is so expensive post-COVID. Like, it's not easy, but I challenge you guys that seeking help, talking about it, doctor, get outside, cleaning up, we have choices.
Yeah. And I think another thing on that too, I always start the conversation this way naturally because it's a part of my story. Like I graduated trying to get into real estate in 2009. Terrible timing on my part, right? Oops.
It's not like you planned it.
But also like, I do have to say like my mom came to this country when she was 11 years old from El Salvador. And her first memories of being in the US, not knowing the language, were doing drills for like nuclear fallout. Like, do you remember like that was happening? We had the civil rights movement in the United States in the 60s. We had the Rodney King riots in LA in the 90s. We had lines for gas through the end of the 70s. There was a huge crash in 87. These things always happen. We are in our tough spot right now.
Yeah.
It's 2024 if you're listening to this when this gets released, okay?
Yeah.
Things will get better. It will cycle through hard times and it'll cycle through abundant times.
Yeah.
And I think if we just focus on the right now and we don't have that perspective, it's very easy to get lost and feel underwater. But just know like you got to ride the waves.
Yeah, and you can, and you get to. Because like James and I, we've talked about this on the podcast, but I don't know if I've shared with you, is like we moved back to Chicago to triage one of the businesses. And it's like such an interesting time because, you talk about chapter 11 or you talk about different things lives with, what you might have to do based on the circumstances. And things are sometimes out of our control. And there's this, my favorite term is called radical acceptance.
Yeah.
And it really is about this idea of, I can't change anything about this, but to just see where the leaf falls.
Yeah.
And hope that that leaf falls wherever it is. And that's how it's supposed to be. Like you were supposed to be 2009 in real estate. That's your leaf falling. That doesn't mean you have a bad leaf.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's your freaking leaf.
Yeah.
And admire it, hold it, And so I think that us going through this with one of our businesses, I've learned so much about, pulling back and budgeting and checking my bills and, thinking, oh my God, I'm living the best life right now, to fudge. We might have to sell our house. We might have to sell our business, but these are real conversations. And it's not saying, oh, now the rest of my life's going to be shitty. This is my time right now to learn something else about myself with my partner, or about entrepreneurship, or, if this doesn't work out, what else can we do?
Yeah.
And not think less of ourselves. For me, it's like, okay, we got to pull back. We get to, right? We have assets we can sell if needed be. Like, what a blessing that we took in all these assets, we invested smart to get rid of. Like, it's a trade-off. It's not, oh my gosh, we can't have 3 jets now and we only have 1. Like, it's not even about that. It's, oh my gosh, 2 houses to 1 house. These are why we have assets and different channels to fall back on. And I learned a lot about that this last year. I've talked about it with the crew of Hustle for Happiness, but with you, I'm sharing it's not a determinant of who we are,
And that's exactly right. We talked about this at the top of the show. It's like you can spend time talking about or feeling really sad about your circumstances and really, getting down on yourself, or you could choose to put that energy into something more positive. And I think that even just you said, like, the acceptance piece of like choosing to and deciding that I'm going to feel good about this, that's really important. I'm going to feel okay about it no matter what. Like, at the end of the day, like, we're going to be okay. This is something that I say to myself all the time. It's like, do I have enough right now? Like, do I right now have enough? Like, I look around my life, like, yes, I have like rice in the closet, even though everything's empty in the fridge. My dog is healthy. I am healthy. I have a roof over my head. Do I have enough? And would more be nice? Okay, yeah, but do I have enough? And did I have enough in the past? I always had enough. Can I trust that I'm always going to have enough in the future? Like, yes. Like, when you really lock into that, you'll be okay. And no matter what it looks like, you'll be okay.
And that gratitude piece is huge. Like, you talk about antidepressants. James had to go on those too. James ran depressed. He was scared. Like, things happen. The fight or flight happens and we can't avoid it. So I'm not saying that you guys are listening that if you have fight or flight, you better check it. Like, just understanding, okay, I have fight or flight right now. What do I need to do for me? How can I pull back? How can I get grounded? For us, it's like, whoa, this is going to be a shock, right? Or, whoa, what does this mean? And for me, it was like, we got to come back to that moment, this present moment of, we have our health. We have our family.
Yeah.
What is important if all this was taken? What would I want?
I love that you said that, because I think that's so key too. Again, people searching for this feeling in this wealth building journey. Like, I want to feel significance. I want to feel joy.
Yeah.
What happens when it all goes away? Who are you then? Right. And so it's like you said, it's not the size of the rock that's going to determine if she looks at the bill. It's like, how strong is that relationship?
Yeah. And you said you're on like the depressants. Like, what is helping you with your mindset right now?
Honestly, I've had an amazing experience on it. I was very nervous about getting on antidepressants because I had some ideas in my head about what that meant. And I have a really great also naturopathic doctor who's really helped me with like the hormonal support and like all the natural side of things. So having and being really empowered about my health, like, I know exactly what's going in my body and how it's affecting me. And this is my plan for the 90 days and then the tapering off or whatever. It really has changed my life in the last 90 days. Because when I was, earlier this year, I was going back to old habits. I was filling my heart with shopping and random. And I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right again. So like, what needs to happen? Why am I doing this? That's been huge. But my mindset practices, I have a menu every morning and every evening of like the things that I do that feel good for me. Some mornings it's just cuddling with my dog. Some mornings it's journaling. I'm a big walk and talker. Like, I'll talk into my phone and journal it out. Right. And been doing a lot of breath work and hypnosis, like all the things. Like with money, all the things matter. Like, all the modalities strategies matter. Like you have to do everything
true.
to see what works for you, because this idea of like building wealth and dancing with money, it takes a lot of personal growth
And strength.
Yeah.
Like, I love that you're like, I know my plan. That doesn't make me less. Like James, I talk about James a lot because like we're very intertwined. Like you are with your.
I like intertwined. That's better.
Like,
That's cute.
I'm like, okay, made up my own word. But I remember like he'd fight it at first because like I shouldn't be taking this. And you got to do what you got to do. I'm not going to say antidepressant, but what worked for me is couples therapy, like talking about this pressure or these unknowns in the room. So for me, it was like, oh, should I go back to work on top of my full-time job, on top of podcasting, on top of all these things? But having that conversation of it's not necessarily what I want to do, but like I got to get uncomfortable with this change. And you did that. You had that conversation. You gathered your facts. You talk to your doctors. What does this look like for me? You know, that financial mindset is a mindset. It's painting that whole picture of not just what's in the bank or, you know, I'm at the top of my structure of the business, or I'm making the most in the marketing firm in all of San Diego, right? It's really cool. And so I want to know for this long-term mindset, how does one keep creating that and harnessing that?
Yeah, for me, so I don't have any kids. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. We talked about that. But I think this idea of generational wealth is really interesting. And the reasons it's interesting to me is not about giving somebody a trust fund. And, you know, that's kind of the tagline to my show. It's tongue in cheek. It's like building the trust funds we wish we were born with, right? Like it's very tongue in cheek
cool.
because like that sounds fun. But for me, this idea of like generational wealth is passing on better practices and ideas and mindsets to like my goddaughters or my nieces and nephews, right? And like just having a better financial understanding and feeling more confident about that conversation around expansion, as opposed to follow these rules, do these things, and save. Instead of that, like what rules can you break? What fun can you have? Like what are we seeing that's working well in society at whole from following these rules? Like not a lot.
Right.
So what type of rules can we break, and how can we create systems for our children to succeed within those frameworks, right? So even just having more expansive conversations about money, normalizing conversations about money, all those things I think are really important. And then for me, it's like, again, having been a rule follower forever, where can I break the rules? Where can I have more fun? Where can I have more leisure in my life? Like, that's what I want. I'm working for leisure. Like, I love leisure. Like, I want to be a lady who lunches.
All
like,
right, if you're a lady luncher, what's your day of leisure look like? If you could have it,
God.
let's be real.
Honestly,
let's cut to the chase.
And let's be real. I'm doing it like once a week now.
What
you know
what I mean? What are you doing?
It's like a sleep in. My dog sleeps in with me.
Yes.
We go on a leisurely walk. We grab a cappuccino. We sit in the grass. I get grounded. She's happy and healthy. Going to a lunch with like a new business associate or, you know, somebody I'm networking with. And like, what are you building? What are we building? How can we partner? Like, what's going on? And then honestly, like I always joke, like I don't have like a lot of hobbies. Like I used to play tennis. I used to water ski. Like, no, my hobby is like hanging out with my fiance. Like I love to spend time with him and read and be around him and be home. I'm a homebody. Like having a nice glass of wine, like nothing's better to me. Unscheduled time. That's why I work so hard. So I can have a couple more of those days in my life as opposed to being chained to a desk. Or like I used to, for my last job, I used to drive between here, Bankers Hill, and Dana Point like every day.
Oh, wow.
And I was so stressed and it was always late and it was so miserable. And like I had sciatica from driving in my car. Ow. Now I can like lay on the floor and stretch out if I want to.
Right.
That's wealth to me.
Same.
Yeah.
Like that leisure is, not necessarily how much can I go buy, but how much can I get with my time?
Yeah.
Like, how can I simplify my life?
Yeah. Or like, you know, one of my best friends from childhood just had a baby. I'm like, I'll come see you whenever because I make my schedule. I'll make my schedule. I'll see you when it makes sense for both of us, right? Not like I have to request time off and all these things. Like, and I try to create an environment within my company for my team to have that flexibility as well. That's the new way. So like, this is the generational thing that I'm talking about. Like, how can we have better workplaces, healthier families? It's not just about giving somebody a trust fund and saying, you know, good luck, but it's like, I want to build better for outside of myself.
So for those, as we end the podcast, it's already gone by so fast.
Yeah.
I just looked, I'm like, wait. But as we end it, for those that are just starting out on their financial journey, their financial empowerment mindset, what tips or advice did you wish you had when you were first starting out that we could share?
There's so many ways to go with this, but I would say start getting comfortable in a relationship with money.
Yeah.
Again, with that whole like finding an analogy that works. Like if you are looking for someone to date, are you going to sit in your city and be like, there are no good men in this town. Every man I talk to sucks. I'm never going to find love. Like if you say that, that will become true for you. So if you want to start changing your relationship with money, let's start showing it some love and respect and saying like money is available to me and figuring out a way to create it so that it can be. It's the same way as like showing up on a date and like putting your best foot forward, right? Like how can you create a more positive relationship? Not because I'm saying you can like sit on your couch and manifest it and it's going to fly to you. That's not how it works. But but it's like, you know, the more comfortable you get with it, the more you are interested in it, you can find a podcast, a book, a lesson, whatever that relates to you so that you can become empowered. But you have to start with the little steps, like
and I love
not
that.
being scared.
Not being scared, because I think it's in our head. And my favorite thing is if it scares you, you got to do it. So for me, it was like, I used to be afraid of like, oh my gosh, not drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, why am I afraid of it? Because I might quit. Like, not that like I won't drink, but you know, like I might find something else that's better.
Yeah, like Topo Chico.
You know, like, you know what I'm saying though?
Yes.
So it's like the same thing as you're saying that. Think of like, yeah, read, get knowledge, talk to people about it, bring it into your conversation, like live it, breathe it. Like, you know, someone who does CrossFit, you know, they do CrossFit. Like they don't
100%.
you know, like someone who's vegan, they live and breathe it. Like they're passionate about it, you know? I think that's a huge tool is, just build that relationship.
Yeah. And I like what you said too, like having the conversations. Like, thank you for having this conversation with me.
Thank you.
This is so fun.
Yeah.
And like having the conversations with our friends, like I think is important. We got to do it.
So where can HFH find you, follow you,
stalk
my goodness.
you? Come be a part of our Rich Girl crew. We have an amazing community of women at Old Money Podcast on Instagram. We have Old Money Country Club, which is a private members community online. OMCC, you can find the link to that all on our Instagram. And I am at AFMKTG for our marketing agency. That's AF Marketing. And my name is Amber Frankhuizen. You can find me anywhere else.
All right. All that will be in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Love you. Thank you for having me.
I don't know about you, but I am feeling so fired up and ready to take on the world, or at least my bank account after hearing her story. Amber really laid it out there, the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to her personal money journey. But the biggest takeaway for me, her refreshing perspective on wealth and prosperity. It's not just about the numbers in your bank account, you know? It's about cultivating a healthy, empowered relationship with money as a tool to create the life you truly desire. No more viewing it as this big, scary, uncontrollable force. Now, I've got a challenge for you, all my money-minded hustlers out there. I want you to think about one person in your life who could really benefit from Amber's insight. Maybe it's a friend, a family member, or even a coworker who's been struggling with their finances. Reach out to them, share this episode, and let's start a ripple effect of financial empowerment, one conversation at a time. Together, we can help more people unlock their true wealth potential and start living the life they deserve. Until next time, keep shining, keep growing, and keep that cash flowing. Love you guys. I hope today's episode left you better than when I found you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tune in every Monday to kickstart your week and set your weekly intentions with me. You can find me and HFH on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, or online at heycourtneybrooke.com. I firmly believe in the power of sharing. If you know someone else who would benefit from this podcast, please share it with them. And remember, when you work on you, I get to be there.